Hey guys, how's it going? It's me, Myogi, and welcome back to another segment of OtaNime, our online community contest where, based on your submissions, we would be making a short animated film. And we are now on the third of the series, which focuses on voice acting. Now, I mentioned third, so if this is your first time watching, I highly recommend clicking the link up top so that you would be able to know what OtaNime is all about, and also to get some extra details on our crash courses on story writing and character design. Now I'm pretty sure this is the most anticipated part that a lot of our community members are looking forward to, which is the voice acting portion. So before we actually go on to the crash course itself, which is I know the reason why most of you guys are here, I'd like to let you know that the winner of round 2 would be posted sometime around right after this video. So please stay in touch on our social media pages, especially on our Facebook. We will be making our winners announcement there. We will be providing the links for the materials as well, which you would need if you plan to participate for round 3. Now, just to give you a short overview of what round 3 is going to be happening, as far as the crash course is concerned, let me give you guys a sample, which I know most of you, especially here in the Philippines, most of you guys really remember so much. It became iconic in the internet, and I'm gonna try to give a knack at it myself. So here we go.
Anong gentle? Lalabas ko na ang aking dragon. Dragon na may tatong sisiw. Gusto ko mong makita ang aking 100% lakas.
Sige kapatid ko, ilabas mo ng iyong 100%.
Sandali na. Ito na ang aking 100% lakas.
Sounds familiar? Yes, it is actually the Tagalog fan dub of Yu Yu Hakusho, aka Ghost Fighter, and I've been doing the lines of the fan dub version of Taguro, the younger and the older one. So that's basically what we're looking forward to. No, not exactly the lines that I just delivered, but in terms of the delivery. And we're gonna go back to what the deliverables are for round 3 in just a moment. But right now, I'm pretty sure you guys are here for the voice acting crash course, and I am here to deliver. Before we get started, just like to let you guys know, if this is your first time watching here on OtaCute TV, be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you haven't, and also don't forget to click the bell icon so that you will be notified when our next upload will be. Not just for OtaNime, but on any of our upcoming contents as well. If you're here to join on round 3, which is the voice acting segment of this online community contest, be sure to stick around until the end after the crash course ends so that you would know what we would be needing from you. Before we get started on the crash course itself, I'd just like to clear the air with regards to certain terms that we use with voice acting. And it's basically, yep, these 3 right here. We have voice acting, voiceover, and dubbing. They get interchanged a lot for various reasons, but I'd just like to clear the air around that so everyone would be on the same page. Voice acting is primarily, well, you guessed it, the literal act of voicing. While voiceover, sometimes when it comes to a voiceover, you have the material except a premeditated or pre-recorded audio, and it is your obligation as a voice actor or the one providing a voice acting service to give life to that character with your own voice, depending on what the author or the project head needs. Dubbing, on the other hand, is normally related to the term of language replacement, especially that of the industry, because sometimes the raw material you're provided already has a voice in itself, but it's of a different dialect, of a different region or country or language, and it's your task to actually have a translated version of the same story while giving the same effect or same oomph as that of the original material. Now, to formally introduce the crash course of voice acting, here is another misconception that I'd like to myth bust. You don't need to have the talent to voice act to, well, voice act. Voice acting, more often than not, is like with any other ability, it's a skill. You need to train yourself to do this. You don't necessarily have to be good at it from the beginning. Anyone can be a voice actor. But what differentiates one from a professional is the amount of training that they go through so that they can modulate and change their voice from this
to this.
Just a bit of a short example. So when it comes to knowing how to voice act, it all comes down first to the equipment that you got. So if you're gunning for something professional, you'd really need to have a really good mic with a pop or noise filter, and your room has to be well acoustically insulated, so to speak. Sure, not everyone can actually opt to have that kind of allocated budget just for the sake of voice acting. So for starters, actually, you don't necessarily need a mic as this. Sometimes you can just start off with, you can start off with a smartphone that has a voice recording feature. A smartphone such as an iPhone 5 or any of the current gen smartphones right now, you're pretty much good to go when it comes to recording quality, because these kinds of microphones from smartphones have really, really good and sensitive voice recording capabilities. Even the slightest can be heard. That's how great those phones are. So imagine yourself recording with those kinds of phones. People can mistake it for this. But of course, a keen professional with a keen ear to voice acting can easily differentiate this from this with regards to recording quality. But at least it's a start, right? Another suggestion, if that is, well, if you're running on a bit of a budget as well when it comes to smartphones, lapel mics are on season right now, especially on stores such as Lazada and Shopee. They're pretty much available for a pretty penny, and they're pretty much good to start with as well. Some of them, they even come with adapters and pop filters, so they're actually a good start too. Not to mention, they're portable. But if you're really if you're really not settled with those kinds of things, well, go ahead and aim for what the professionals do. Just be sure you are still within your budget. The second thing that you need to have is basically a quiet room. A room this quiet is conducive for you to do some voice recordings, voiceovers, dubs, and voice acting in general. So those are the top two things, and of course top three would be your voice itself, which I will get to in a minute. Now that we have the external factors out of the way, now we can focus and delve deeper into the internal factors, which I mentioned earlier is our own voice. I subdivided what you need to know about your own voice to these subcategories right here, and we will be tackling them one by one so that you'll be able to get the ball rolling with your own voice acting career, even if it's for just a hobby or as a sideline. Given that animation is a story of life, and what sometimes that drives the emotion is the voice acting delivery on an animation, we can easily say as well that voice acting is a story of life. So I mentioned earlier as well that it is kind of related to theatrical arts, just without the acting or the motions. Another way to look at voice acting is like singing without melody. Now that we've got the overviews and myths busted in a way about voice acting, let's go even further, deeper beyond into how to get your voice to be ready for some voice acting work or activities. First one that I'd like to quote is being in character. When I mention being in character, especially if you are provided with a character, a visual, and a description, so you must try to understand the character that you're working on, because you will be putting yourself into that character's shoes. So you're not going to be acting as yourself, you're going to be acting as that character. Unless that character is based off yourself. Another point that is very important is knowing your voice. Sometimes I do notice this a lot, is that people, they tend to either play it too safe and they stick to the most comfortable range in their voice, or sometimes they kind of go too far into what their voice can actually do, maybe for various reasons, like they like the character so much that they kill someone to be that character, or some other reason, or sometimes that the character's voice is too low for even for them to handle. I mean, yeah, some people are born with a low voice, but just because we're training ourselves to modulate our voice doesn't mean that the voice profile that we're aiming for ain't always the voice profile that we are capable of doing. Another point that I like to make is what I call varying your pitch. So when it comes to varying your pitch, it's like when you're doing the exercise when you're singing of do, re, mi, fa, sol, you know, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That one, that scale. It's kind of the same. It's just that, remember, just dialing back to my quote earlier, singing without melody. So you are trying to see which is the capable range that you are able to do, and you stick with it. If you force yourself to do a range that is beyond yours, sure, you may be able to pull it off, but maybe right after, never again, because the voice might get strained. And when it comes to voice acting, this is what I heard as well from my friend who is already part of the voice acting industry. That is their skill, that is their tool, that is their sword. If it breaks, you get the idea. And this one is my own personal recommendation. It's not necessarily a point to make, but it's more of some places where you can actually be encouraged or be inspired to do some voiceovers. If the live actions aren't your thing and voice is really what you're primarily after, I highly recommend abridged voiceovers. The ones who are doing the best abridged voiceovers so far, we got Team 4-Star, who once handled Dragon Ball Z Abridged, one of the visual novel Let's Players, Nico B, and he has this series that he calls the Council of Voices. He has a really wonderful voice range. When you listen to him, because he doesn't have his face featured a lot on most of his videos, just the game that he's playing and the voices that he gives, you can instantly think that the voice he's giving is the voice of the character themselves. And there's also something witty entertainment, the one behind the Sword Art Online Abridged series, and also Project Mouthwash, a group that is doing the Fate Unlimited Blade Works Abridged, and the voice talents that they got, some are from the aforementioned and more. So the quality that they've done is really top notch. It can actually rival that of those of the original content that they are using. One extra tip that I'd like to give, especially when it comes to replenishing, to be honest, you can't do this consistently without breaks. Of course, you will need a break once in a while. And water is your best friend. Not just any kind of water though. If you drink something too hot, it might scorch your throat. Too cold might give the same effect. So somewhere around room temperature, lukewarm would be just fine, just right. You'd like to keep your mouth moist so that the delivery can be constant and fluid in a way. I didn't mean to make a pun there just because I had a bottle of water holding it, but I do believe you guys know what I'm talking about, right? The next one is more of another tip, so just going back to the tips from my recommendations, back to tips, is your position from the mic. What I do notice, whether you're using a phone or an actual mic set or a lapel mic, where you position your voice or where you position your mouth is really important. Because remember, we're human beings, we breathe. So if you put it like this, the direction of your nose, your breathing, it would be received by the mic. So that is, and also if you're doing the pop sounds, if it's too close and you say pop, the PH sound, even as tiny as it is, it can give some really huge voice spikes, especially when you're the one as well managing the recording. And you know that's irritating, that it kind of peaks too much and it kind of distorts your entire voice project. That is also a no-no. So not just with a smartphone, but even as well as this, make sure this is how you position well your placement when it comes to doing voice acting, voiceovers. If you are an experienced singer, I'm pretty sure this is nothing new. But for those who are starting out or are not familiar with the art of it, this is what I highly recommend sometimes. So the mic first, you gotta put it at least chin level. You don't want it directly here, because again, the PH sounds, the air that you blurt out, the air that you give out when you do the PH sounds, it will be received. You want the sound of your voice, not the sound of the air coming out of your voice. As well as the placement, the reason why I want it chin down is because when you breathe out, there will be less surface area for the air from your nose to hit the mic. Also, keep it around at least roughly a index finger's length away. You don't want it too close, you don't want it too far either. If you're gonna be voicing a little too far, you would have to increase your volume, and that would strain your throat a lot. So this position is more than fine, it's more than enough. If you think that the PH sounds are still there, just adjust it a little lower. You can go as lower as up to the tip of your chin. That is fine, even when you're doing this. So as long as the position of the mic is as close as possible to your mouth without any chance for air from your mouth to be hitting the mic, you're good. This extra thing that I'm going to be sharing with you guys right now highly applies to unvoiced characters. What I mean by unvoiced characters, because most of the material that what we have seen so far, especially on the internet, they have already original voice actors, and the ones normally getting more popular sometimes are the ones doing the dubs or the fan dubs, because of how accurate they were able to recreate the voice. So when it comes to voicing a character that was never voiced before, you have to understand a few things. You have to understand the look and personality of the character that you're voicing. Delivering based on emotion. Again, that's dialing back to the acting segment. And remember, acting takes a page out of somebody else's life. So it's not entirely 100% exaggerated or theatrical. So sometimes how you interact IRL kind of helps. I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that we're all actors here. I mean, Shakespeare did say, all the world is a stage. No, get out Shakespeare. Also, this is another point that you should understand and get through your head, is to be natural. Though I did say earlier that you are acting in a way, naturalness is what makes it convincing. And slightly exaggerate is, well, just to give it a bit of that spice or the flavor, depending on the source material. So I'm pretty sure some of these descriptions are a little vague, so I would be doing a bit of some samples right now to give you guys an idea on how you can maximize the capacity of your voice. So remember, understand your character kind of relates to understanding your own voice, knowing your voice. So you can do some practices before you actually execute it and see if the voice matches, if the character matches the voice you're giving it, or if it matches the source material that you're trying to imitate if you're doing a dub. And be sure to understand the character themselves as well, so that remember, you're putting yourself in their shoes. So the main point is you're trying to become them. Or maybe a good way to understand that statement is, well, let's get an excerpt from SpongeBob about the marble.
I gotta embrace the marble!
Right!
I gotta sniff the marble!
Well, okay.
I gotta lick the marble! I gotta wash the marble! I gotta date the marble! I gotta be the marble!
So replace marble with character. That's pretty much the same potato. And okay, I think I gave out all the tips that you would need. So what better way to demonstrate everything here by, of course, doing some samples. Oh, trust me, I'll huff and puff and blow you down. He's 11! I'm 6! Wow! My blade is yours. Would you
Pass me that potion. With every death comes honor. With honor, redemption. I don't like food, I love it. If I don't love it, I don't swallow. Zetsubo sayo. それは地獄だ.
Just like to point it out here that this guide can also be applied to female roles, female voices. It's just that I am a guy and also that is my maximum limit. There are some guys who can pull off really good female voices. Just the same as how most shotas, especially in Japan, are normally voiced by females. Just a bit of a trivia. So hopefully this voice acting crash course kind of help in one way or another. So just to give a short recap on what we've discussed, you have to understand your voice, at the same time understand the character that you plan to voice, their personality, and relate that to the range that you are able to do. And be sure to give it some emotion, but at the same time be as natural as possible to make it more believable. And hopefully that helps. When it comes to deliverables for round 3, we would be hoping that our participants would be sending in voice files that are roughly in MP3 format. If there's any kbps settings, it would be around 128 to 320. So there are around 3 variants: 128, 256, and 320 kbps. Those are the standard audio bit rates that are normally being used everywhere, and it should have good quality. Also, when it comes to noise, be sure it is clear of any other sound other than your own voice. That also includes like something like that. So when you record, you have to be as stiff as possible while delivering your lines with as little to no extra sounds as possible aside of your own. Okay, so we would have a summary of what we'd be needing on our Google form. It would be on the link below on the video description if you plan to be ready to submit your voice files. So again, our characters, we have Arya and we have Sayaka, but I'm pretty sure you guys would have an idea on how you're going to be executing the lines. But I'm pretty sure you'll be also expecting the final character design, because I know that would greatly help, so that you would be able to gauge what kind of voice you would be giving these two girls. So best of luck to those who will be participating in part 3, and we will see you guys in part 4, where we would be tackling about music and animation, as how the impact of music does it, and some guidelines on what to submit and how to submit for round 4. So we'll see you guys then.